Welcome to the Hazard Class Podcast. This is the podcast where I ask my stupid questions to some of the smartest people in and around the world of emergency services. My guest this week is a fire captain from South Florida. He has been in the fire service for nearly 20 years and works across multiple special operations disciplines. He's the author of the book, The Modern Fire Officer, which focuses on developing strong company officers, building healthy firehouse culture, and leading firefighters in a profession that continues to evolve. It's my pleasure to welcome Jared Vermeulen.
Bummer.
Exactly. What's up, Jared? How are you doing, man?
Good, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me on the show, dude.
Of course, man. I'm excited. We were just talking about the animated intro. So the animated intro, I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, so I had this rendering of a cartoon version of me, and then I sent it off to this website called Fiverr, and I was communicating with this very obviously, very broken English back and forth. And, I got it. I think it was like $100, but it was the communications back and forth could be published because it was the broken English back and forth was hilarious.
He was probably making fun of you to his friends.
Oh, for sure. He's like, look at this idiot, this hillbilly, right?
Yeah.
Totally. But man, welcome. Thanks for joining me. It's going to be great. I've seen you around, and so finally I reached out. I know that you're buddies with a past guest, right? The owner of Rescue CBD.
Oh yeah, John Vogt. He's one of my boys. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Solid
he was on
dude.
in the past. I don't know, probably 20, 30 episodes ago, and so we kind of came across each other in the social sphere, and I invited you to come on. I'm excited to chat with the new book coming out. But before we can get into all the nitty gritty of the new book and what we can learn from it, let's get back into who you are and hit the ground running with this. So about 20 years, just shy of 20 years in the fire service. Why? Like, give me the origin story.
Yeah, the origin story is funny because it's like I had no clue that I was ever going to be a firefighter. It was like at the 11th hour kind of deal where I was going to be getting into industrial design of all things. And some firefighter friends of mine told me, hey, yeah, that's not for you. They knew me pretty well. They're like, you're not going to live your life in front of a computer. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, what do I do? And they're like, here, go become a fireman. So I was like, okay, tell me what to do with my hands, And so I rode with them a little bit, went to their firehouse, kind of got a clue for what it was. And I was like, okay, yeah, this looks pretty freaking awesome. And so yeah, I went down that path, and I guess the rest is history. I always liked being outdoors, doing whatever it may be, trying to kill myself, hanging off a building, trying to do something like that, so special ops kind of was like, yeah, this is something I got to do. I got to do special ops. So even when I was getting hired, it's like all I wanted to do. So I went through, got my trench, rope, confined space, hazmat, VMR, like all that stuff. Did that for a long time earlier in my career, which was actually, I guess, pretty cool because it's an abnormal career path in Florida a little bit because it's fire rescue. Everyone's paramedics in South Florida usually, that you spend a lot of time on rescue, which we were just talking about is not, a heavy rescue. It is an ambulance. It's like a 4-door ambulance with firefighting equipment on it. But, you spend a lot of time running medical calls early in your career. I didn't spend a lot of time running medical calls till later in my career, which is odd. When I started stepping up into promoted positions, doing lieutenant, which is the officer on the ambulance, and then even as a captain, I was at a station that we considered adaptive response, which had a quint and an ambulance in it. So then I did both. You had gear on both trucks, and whatever the call was, you got on that truck. So I ran a lot of, medical calls, fire calls, anything by yourself, for a while, because then you're waiting for units to come from another zone. So you just did it all.
Yeah.
So, which is funny. It's a weird career path, but yeah.
So is the agency you're working for, they do not run an ambulance service, but they first respond with that rescue, or you're waiting for that rescue to meet up with you because not every fire station has an ambulance in it. Is that right?
Yeah. So at the time they were only hiring from when they hired me, paramedics and on, but we still had firefighters only and then EMTs. And then, so they were phasing that out. So it was going to be all paramedics. So there was a few stations that actually didn't have ambulances, and they were kind of bringing those up to speed, having an ambulance and a suppression unit out of every station, and then even upping the staffing that was on those trucks, because some of the trucks, like the ambulances, would only have two paramedics or an EMT and a paramedic, whatever it might have been at the time. And so they were upping that to 3 because probably, as you know, on the numbers, 80-90% of the calls we're running are medical. So, we did full transport too. So it wasn't just, we were running everything and transporting. So it was time to, get those stations up to snuff, so to speak. But in the meantime, there were some growing pains there where some of the stations, there was, you had a full station with 3 guys and that was it. And you had 2 trucks and as a captain, because there was a suppression unit there, you'd be running on rescue, which is an ambulance for us, and also, the fire truck. And then you had to make a lot of different choices, prioritize what the heck you were doing because you had limited resources.
Yeah. So do you go to medic school prior to being hired, or do you get hired and then go to medic school?
So I went to a medic school. So funny thing for me was a lot of the vets were coming back from Iraq, and because they're veterans, they were able to get in fire academy over me, which was their prerogative, which is what they deserve. And so I couldn't get in fire academy. I was an EMT since 2004, and I couldn't get into fire academy, so I just went to paramedic school. And so I was a paramedic, but way before I was a firefighter. So when I went to go get hired with the city of Boca, I was already a medic. They wanted medics. And because I had been accepted into the fire academy, they said, listen, you pass fire academy and you can continue on in the hiring process. But our hiring process is so long that I went through fire academy before I was even done the hiring process. But the funny part is when I was in fire academy, literally the second day, like the instructors don't even know my name, and I got to leave to go do a oral interview.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, you're not even a fireman, like, who do you think you are, kind of a deal. But they were busting my balls, but they were happy for me. And it worked out good. I had a job waiting. I mean, I literally went through fire academy and waited months and then got hired. So, I mean, that's how long the process is. Unfortunately, I think that's an issue with a lot of places still, that the hiring process is so damn long. Yeah. That, people are like, hey, I need to make some money, here now. Or they might go to a different department because the different department is smart enough to say, hey, we'll hire you now. Yeah.
So talk to me through that, because that seems like an interesting layout, right? So there's a fire academy that's unassociated with a particular department, or
right.
That was not associated with Boca at that point. That was just, I'm going to the fire academy, and then was it through like a technical college or something like that?
Yeah, so in South Florida, usually you're going to need to go to a state or a community college to get your EMT paramedic fire, and then you hope that you apply and get a job. So there's no sponsorships anymore, and there haven't been for a long time. So it's I think Miami-Dade used to do some type of a sponsorship like that, but pretty much if you're not coming with all of your certifications, then you're not coming.
Wow. So then what does the onboarding process look like in the department? Like, so now you finally get your job offer from Boca, like now there has to be some sort of onboarding. This is how we do it here process too, I would imagine, right? So what does that look like?
So then you got like a 40-week program.
40 week?
40-hour, 8-week program. 40 weeks. God. Oh my God. Yeah. Could you imagine a full year? You're off probation. Yeah, no, so it's like 40 hours, like 8 weeks, and then it'll kick into the way we're going to do fire, the way we're going to do medical stuff. And really the hard part really is the medical stuff, because down here we do, our medical protocols are pretty legit. Like there's a lot to them. I mean, even from when I got hired, I mean, the amount that we are able to do under medical direction is pretty intense. And we hold our paramedics to a pretty high level. I mean, technically, for them to get off probation, the hoops that we make them jump through, even on the paramedic side, would be like what a lieutenant level would be at most departments. So it's not a joke. It's pretty tough.
Do you think that serves the new firefighter well, or do you think that it's too much?
I think it's a little much, but I think they can do it, and they can do it with the right mindset from both sides. So the mindset that, yeah, you can get there, and we're going to help you get there. So it takes two to tango on that. I think that it's a little dangerous when you think that everyone should be a chief, because you need Indians too, type of deal. So,
sure.
And not everyone's going to be like perfect. And personally, what I care about, because I'm at one of our training stations, I've had plenty of probationary employees come through. What I care about is attitude. And I'm not looking for you to be perfect, and because I'm not perfect, that's for sure. And I don't want you to look at me and think you're going to find some perfection there, because you ain't. But that being said, you have to have a level of compliance there that is achievable, and you help those people to achieve that level. And I think what that does is it pushes people enough to where they can feel good about themselves and think that, wow, look at what I'm doing and where I've gone. And also too, you get a level of service that's professional. And it's easy to be a leader when you have professionals.
What's the culture like in that? Is it, collaborative, or is it like there's a certain amount of attrition that you want to have happen during that? Maybe not you personally, but the organization. Is it supposed to be difficult enough that not everyone gets to pass, or is it we want everyone to succeed?
I would say in my organization that if you get the conditional, we want you. We're not looking to trip you up. That's for sure. And especially if you're coming to my station, like you're going to survive, because unless you are just like someone that does not want to make it, your attitude sucks. Like, I am not going to let you down. Like that, to me, as a leader in that situation, like if I can't like get you to get there, then that's on me. If you want to be there, barring some like ridiculous, skill gap that just can't be overcome. And what's interesting at our department too is that we are so heavy into like that type of professionalism, is like we don't really mess with you much when you're on probation. Like you're not getting pranked that much. We just care about how well you know the protocols. You know what I mean? It's just like super nerdy. But hey, I mean, we have a lot of straight up epic players on the team, man. They're freaking good at what they do, and that's. I think a lot of departments around us would agree. We have a pretty high level of care. And listen, man, I mean, what better way to give props to a fire department or an organization is to say I'd hope they'd run on my family if there was an issue. And that's how I feel like truly about my department. Even some of our worst crews. I'd still put them up against some of the best crews from surrounding departments, just because I know them. I'm not trying to dunk on any surrounding department. I just know what I got. I mean? It's like having a good card in your hand. You got an ace high, whatever it may be. You got the royal flush. You can talk crap.
Yeah. They call that having the nuts, right? In poker world. So I want to go back a little bit, because there's a timeline thing that I'm interested in. So you said you got your EMT in 2004. I know you got hired in Boca in 2007. What were you doing with EMT in that gap?
So I worked for AMR for a little bit, but that was closer when I was
get wrecked.
I don't know how that company. You're probably gonna have to cut this out, but I don't know how that company survives, man. They treated me like total trash.
I don't hear very many positive reviews.
Yeah,
And I
whatever.
don't think that you probably will ruffle any feathers to say anything bad about AMR.
Dear God. So
But
I worked that, and then I did a ton of travel.
oh, okay.
I traveled all over the world. Yeah, and I think that's what really like kind of helped my perspective a lot for just trying to in being a leader, because there's a lot of perspective that you get from understanding other cultures, understanding just life in general, just seeing it from other people's eyes, and maybe walking a few steps, I'm not saying that I walked, miles. I'm just saying I walked maybe a few. And yeah, I mean, you learn something from, that's one thing I want to offer my kids, when they're a little older. I want to take them around the world and say, hey, you see that there? What do you think about that? You see that over there? What do you think about that? That's pretty tough,
Yeah.
You guys are spoiled.
Where did you go? Were any particular experiences impactful in that period of time?
Oh, man, I went all over the place. I spent a good couple months in South America, Central South America. And man, you want to talk about finding some appreciation? You'll find some down there. Good Lord, man. Talk about being spoiled. I mean, our houses have windows and doors right there. It's got a toilet that flushes. Hey, we're doing real good, and when you spend, I probably spent all in all maybe half a year down there. And I mean, that's nothing to somebody's like life, you know what I mean? But, you come back here and you kiss the ground, dude, when the toilet flushes and you got a kitchen indoors. And, an experience that kind of sticks out is we rented a house on the beach in Ecuador. A couple of my buddies came down with me one of the times, and like the house, we rented the whole house for like $60 for the entire month, like total, not like each. I mean, and it had like a door, which was cool, but there was like a gap like that big. So like literally like animals were coming in under this thing, but hey, it was a door. You kind of like live that life, and you see like, holy moly, man, do we have it good? And while we were there, there was a family. Well, there's a few families, but they were shrimpers, so they go out on these panga boats and all day, and they lay these like real short. The nets are very short, and they line the bottom of the ocean, and I guess they're weighted on the bottom, but they have like a float on the top, so they just like kind of sit on the bottom, and all the shrimp, I guess, kind of fall into that net, and then they, at the end of the day, at the tide change, they pull it up into the boat. So we kept seeing them coming in and out. And at the time I could speak Spanish somewhat okay. So I kind of was talking to them, hey, we'll work for you for free. Let's just do this thing. Let's like live this life for the day. So like, yeah, get on the boat, who cares? Like zero liability in Ecuador. If we like died, they wouldn't care, So get on the boat,
dump you over the side of the boat.
Who cares? So we get on the boat. You want to talk about, dude, like all day you're on the boat in the sun, running these nets. You got like a second to yourself to like, by the time you're bringing the net back in, then you're bringing all the shrimp in, you're bringing them back in. I mean, it's a long day. So the family was so excited that we did that, because they wanted to like give us something for helping them do the catch or whatever. I was like, no, absolutely not. We're not taking any money. They had us for dinner to the house, and their house, I mean, if you could call it that, it was literally like a brick, like a cinder block type lean-to with found metal, as a roof, no windows, no doors. Their actual dining room table was a door. So that's
my goodness. Yeah.
And then the lighting in there was construction lighting, how the orange, lighting or whatever. And I mean, like, dude, you're getting like bugs are coming in, like attacking you. I mean, this is like, South America, you're trying to eat, but they cooked up the shrimp and gave us a meal, after all that. And you want to learn some humility. You want to learn about life. And what it's like there, what it's like here, and when you take things for granted. That was a lesson I'll never learn, you know, and again, anywhere else, like you have to learn, like in there, in the moment, feel it, you know, and like I took that, and man, when I got home, I told my dad, I was like, dude, do we have it good, man? Do we have it good? And that's what I mean about bringing my kids. I want them to experience something like that, so that they get a real feel for what it is that we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
You know?
And so what do you think, you know, as a kid, right? A kid being relative, you know, what are you, 20, 21, something like somewhere in that
19,
range, right? It's like, yeah. So like, what do you think inspired you to want that? It's like, so often at that point in our lives, we want comfort and we want none of just like, especially this newer generation, not to just talk smack on the newer generation, but it seems like the newer generation wants that life of comfort and ease and sit on the couch. And if it's easy, I want to do it. What do you think was the guiding light for you to say, I want to go see what the real world looks like outside of the comfort of my, you know, my home?
Yeah, I don't know. I always want like adventure, like to the point where like I might die.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, and at the time, dude, my parents were not happy. The first time I went to South America, I didn't even graduate high school yet. I skipped the last month or two. They had to send me my diploma.
Oh my gosh.
In the mail, and my parents were not happy. That's for sure. They were not happy at all. But I was like, whatever, I'm going. So, you know, you can disown me or not. I'm the only child, so you got nothing.
You had some cards in your hand.
Yeah, that was my only card. And I went down there. My parents were not happy. They're like, you're going to get, you know, abducted into some, you know, child like army or something. They don't know. You know, and you go down there, you find adventure. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
You know, and especially back then, because you know, when you're down there, there was no phones or anything. You had to find an internet cafe to send like an email back. And I left for a month. I just bought tickets and left, you know, and at the first time I went down there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just have always had this like wild hair to like get out there and feel something, you know, and just see what I'm made of. And it's kind of like that Mighty Boss Stone song. I forget the exact lyrics, but it's like it's the impression that I get. It's like I'd like to think that I'm the man, but I don't know until I'm under fire.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like what a lot of people in the fire service are. It's not just that we want to like do good, which we do. It's like we also want to know what we got. We want to feel the fire like on your back and come out and be like, yeah, you see that melted helmet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though that's
right.
stupid and it's going to give us cancer and kill us.
Yeah. But you saw it though, right? It's cool. And little did you know, the greatest hardship you'd see was working for AMR for 4 years.
Oh my God, dude, don't even get me started on AMR. What's funny is, so I didn't even like crash an ambulance, but like when I started, there was one rolled over, because they used vans where I was, right? There was one like rolled over van in the parking lot. By the time I left, there was like 20 rolled over vans in there. I was like, oh my gosh, how is this place still working, man? Yeah, there's no ambulances left.
Just a metaphor for their business practices, this
pretty
field
much
of crashed ambulances. All right, so now let's go. Let's jump forward now to, you finish the fire academy, you get your job offer, and now you hit the streets as a new firefighter. What do you remember about those early days and like kind of coming into your own as a firefighter on the actual, you know, fire ground?
I just remember being like the youngest guy by far. Like all the guys, the crews that I were on, it was all like people that had been there longer than me, that like I've been alive. Some of the early crews, there was some younger guys, but like as soon as I started the special ops thing, it was all guys that had been on the job like longer than I'd been alive. But a lot of good dudes in the special ops. Like I loved it. How
did you horseshoe your way in there? I guess shoehorn would be the rather right. Yeah. How did you shoehorn your way in there early in your career?
Oh, it's took a little note from Shawshank Redemption. When he wanted,
Yeah.
when he wanted the library, and he's like, "I'm going to send you a letter like every week, and then until you give me this library." And then he sent him like 10 letters until he wanted more books or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I did to the special ops chief. I was like, put me in coach over and over again until he was just tired of hearing me.
Yeah.
Scotty J, he's such a good dude. And he, cause at the time, like, when I did hazmat, I was on probation, and, that was like unheard of, cause they're like, we don't even know if you're going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to spend all this money on you. You're not going to make it, and then literally as soon as I got off probation, I went to special ops because there was a need for it. So, that was kind of like my method of making it through the department, which is funny because like for the first few years of when I was hired, like no one even knew who I was because they never saw me. I was never in Gen Pop because our special ops station wasn't in Gen Pop.
Mm-hmm. So you were just on the air, and then you were probably in all these different classes, and then and so how did you balance? I think that there's the thing we talk about a lot, especially I'm teaching hazmat a lot. I'm trying to mentor these younger firefighters and how to craft their career in terms of like, when do I become good at this? And at what point is it too early to learn that? And there's always questions like that. And so you kind of have an atypical model, which is like really like learning the more advanced atypical skills and then kind of circling back to the more, quote unquote, rudimentary firefighting skills, it would seem. What do you think is the right way? Is there a right way?
I don't know, man. I wouldn't say that there is a right way. I would think it's so custom to you, and what your skill set is. If you're comfortable enough, with whatever your department, focuses on, like, so if it's like an ALS department and you're not good at paramedic, then you better figure it out first, and find the mentors that are going to help you to do that. If you are, then yeah, if you have the mental bandwidth, then do it. Just be a student of the game. I think a lot of the learning that can come from what we do is in the unspoken moments. It's all the stuff that you can just glean from, talking to the people that do it, that you can constantly learn just by observing and asking questions in the moment. And like a lot of the training I like to do with my crew isn't something like, hey, we're going to go to the tower now at 10 a.m. and we're going to do this thing. Yeah. It's we just ran like a fire alarm at a mixed occupancy, and we're like, hey, I wonder if we could reach that little spot with the ladder. What do you think? We'll put the ladder up and we'll try to reach it. We'll run a call, like if that was on fire, I'll ask the guys or girls like, hey, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about, that room there? If there was a fire there, oh yeah, well, maybe we could do this. All right, well, let's try it, And a lot of that, there's a lot of like that hidden training in the moment. And that's true even for someone that's new, is you're only going to learn as much as you're open to, especially if you're going to be observant or not. So if you're just, kind of la-di-dee, la-di-da, through every call, you're not really learning anything. Yeah, then you're not learning anything. You got to like figure out what the hell's going on, on a call, and be like, oh man, I didn't realize you could do that. Let me check back and ask about that, or, kind of make a mental note. I talk about that in my new book, and a lot of that is how you really build your gut instinct, because your gut instinct is your subconscious. So if you're not feeding it, it's going to give you nothing back. Right. Yeah. So always be observant, always be in that learning mindset, and know what's right for you and your career. I'd say it's never too early to learn anything. And you have to be honest, with yourself, and have honest mentors to say, like, ones that care about you, not that just want to crap on your career, but like ones that are be like, hey, you're not quite ready yet, or you know what, you're freaking good, dude. Keep moving. I'll support you and I'll help you, so you got to surround yourself with the right people too, and get like an honest outlook.
Yeah. And I think in going along with that, like, when do we start learning, and when, so often department cultures, and it sounds like your department has a great culture. People come in straight out of the fire academy into probation and are so worried that they might look incompetent or stupid that they don't ask the question that this is the perfect time to ask, right?
Right.
I'll oftentimes tell my mentees, because on our department, we have a formalized mentorship program. So you come on and you get matched with a more senior guy. And then, so I'll tell my mentees, I said, hey man, you got like a solid 2 or 3 years where you can ask any question and it only raises your stock, right? Like if you ask that question, no one's gonna be like, oh, this guy is so stupid. We already think you're stupid. It's fine, right? You're gonna raise your stock by asking the question because we know that you're invested enough to care, right? But now if you ask that same question about, how do we load this hose on year 12, we're probably going to have a problem because you should have asked that on year 2 or year 3.
Right.
But the department culture really fosters whether or not people come out of the academy and into probation willing and able to feel comfortable enough to ask all the questions without fear of retaliation or some sort of like, feeling bad about themselves for not knowing something. Right.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, culture is everything with that, especially. I mean, that's a leadership issue too, where you got to understand if someone's asking to get better, don't take a dump on it.
Yeah.
You can break their balls, sure. If I got like a 12-year guy that suddenly is interested, I'll be like, oh, hey, nice to meet you after 12 years, whatever. But I'm going to teach you what it is you want to know. And hopefully you can teach me something too. You know what I mean? Because I don't know everything either. And I mess up all the time. I do plenty of stupid stuff. You could get a hold of my crew. I mean, John Vogt, you could ask him.
Yeah. I mean,
we work together. So
I've learned way more things from the things I do wrong than right.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like those are the things that stick with me, having the staying power. It's just a matter of how many times can we, how many strikes do you get? Like everyone gets to make every mistake once. I'm for that, right? How many more times do I get to make the same mistake before it becomes a problem, right? I think that everyone at least gets one. Sometimes in some weird situations, you might get 2. If we start getting to 3, 4, 5, now we might need to have a conversation probably, right?
Yeah. Yeah, depending on what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the consequences of the action, right? You don't get a ton of questions or a ton of extra chances when it's life or death.
Right. Definitely start getting nicknames though.
yeah, you definitely might. Right. So as you're settling into that role, right, I would imagine that as you slide into special operations more, I don't have a great scale of the size of your department and the how well everyone knows each other, but like, are you facing any resistance culturally on the department in terms of you sliding into these more advanced role despite your tenure?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously anytime, you're going to leapfrog someone, there's going to be some friction there. And, I did a few leapfrogs here. Now I'm busy getting leapfrogged, and but I'm good with it because it's a lot of guys that I really like, and I've had the honor and girls to mentor, and so it's like, seeing the hens come home to roost type of thing, but yeah, at the time I pretty much skipped a big part of fire rescue down here, is where you're spending 8 years on the ambulance. So there's, some guys that weren't too excited about that. I felt pretty good about it.
I bet you did. Yeah. How do you manage that and stand true to the fact that you have value and you're good at what you do, but also give respect to the people that have the time, but also, like I said, stand firm in the idea that you do deserve this because you have earned it and you are good at it.
Yeah, that's can be a tough tight rope to walk, and a lot of it is just showing them respect and validating their place, and some of the people that a good example is when I became a captain. 1 minute I was driving for a firefighter for somebody that was the driver, then I drive for them when they were stepping up maybe to captain, then I was their captain. They helped me become a better fireman, they helped me become a better driver, and then all of a sudden now they have to listen to what I have to say from the right seat. Right away I'm going to have a conversation with them, be like, listen, I didn't forget where I came from, I owe a lot of this to you. So number one, I'm going to validate your place and let you know that I don't know it all. And I'm going to need you because you're important. And right there, you're going to put a lot of that kind of crap to rest, where they're going to want to fight you, because, on whatever, because you've leapfrogged them. But then you follow through and you actually do that, and you get their opinion when it's necessary, and you get the help from them. And part of that, is staying humble, where when you're in a leadership role, you're not suddenly the smartest guy in the room. There's still very smart people there, and your job is then to use those smart people so that everyone has a better outcome. And you have to make that clear that you're going to continue to do that. And there's other ways within the organization to show that, hey, I'm not just like cutting through this and leaving all this stuff behind, and then I have a skill gap. For me, when I was doing, I went from the way our department works, I went from firefighter to driver, and then I could go to captain from there, and I don't have to become a lieutenant, which was on our ambulance. So usually you have to go through firefighter, driver, lieutenant, captain.
Okay.
But I still did the lieutenant step up. I still took the test, passed it, showed that I could do that job, worked as a lieutenant before I was made captain. So part of that too is I put out a little extra effort to show that instead of saying like, I don't really care about that and I don't want to do it, that, yeah, I did do it at least a little, as much as I could, that I respect that position. And by the way, have kind of an idea of what that feels like to be sitting in that seat. And it's not just, to, prove anything as much as it is so that if I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to need to understand what that position is like, I better damn well do it. And have an idea, and gain some respect that way too. And, if there's one thing in the fire service that goes without saying, that is you put elbow grease into something, it gets noticed. Like when you work hard, people respect that, period. Doesn't matter what rank you are. And when you do that, you're gonna win friends and influence people. And so if you're unsure of where to go, like in the fire service, I don't know what to do, just work hard at something and you'll get noticed, and you'll probably have a path that forms itself in front of you.
Yeah. So as you're working as a firefighter, how long do you spend as a firefighter before you promote for the first time?
I think it was like 3 years. So it was pretty quick. Yeah.
You're right out.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of worked out because at the station I was at the time, we didn't have bids. So I was just put at our special ops because I was special ops. And there's two drivers there. So it's a firefighter, two drivers, and a captain. And because we had a driver on what you would consider like a heavy rescue, which had like all our confined space stuff and rope rescue stuff, and just like all kinds of random hazmat stuff and God knows what else,
Yeah.
And then we had an engine that would run with it. So it was those four. So you're, at the time, it was you're sitting around all day with two drivers. So it's like, if you don't become a driver, then you're just wasting an opportunity, So I had and then I had two drivers that were, cared about me and put a lot of work into me. So it just so happened that I had it. You have to have 3 years on the job in order to take the driver's test. And so it kind of just like lined up to where it's like, yeah, I've just been trained to be a driver for 3 years straight by two really good drivers, and the test is available to me. Why not do it? And I did, and I got promoted. So then, that moved me on to my, next phase in my career. So
how long do you drive then for?
So then I drove for another 3 years.
Okay.
And then by the time my captain's promotion came up, it was, I want to say like 6.5, 7 years. So,
okay.
Yeah. So now I've been a promoted captain for more than 11 years.
Okay. When you think about that decision, I'm always interested in the decision from a person that cares about themselves to a person that now is responsible for other people. Cause like there's different levels of promotion inside the fire service, depending on your organization. From firefighter to driver is generally just like what you do on a daily basis, but there's not a lot of expectation generally in terms of like now you manage other people. So inside of your organization, is that how it goes? And then what was your impetus for now being like, I want to not just do my own thing, but I want to lead? And like, what did that burden kind of feel like? That's 1,000 questions, but take it however you will.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted, so, you know, how's that saying go? You could either work for the dick or be the dick, you know? Yeah. So I wanted to be
and you wanted to be him.
No, I mean, the captain's role, you know, the highest level officer in a fire station sets a serious tone, and it sets a tone for a group of people. And I wanted the ability to work on that tone. And everything I've ever done isn't perfect, but by far. But I wanted that, and I wanted to make a place where we could kick ass and look forward to doing it. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way. But the biggest lesson is that when you do move into that role, like your work at your amount of work skyrockets. It doesn't go down. Your amount of physical work does, but the amount of work you do in leadership becomes less visible the higher you go, right? So it's at the lower levels, like, yeah, you can see probationary employees mopping the floor. He's working really hard. Sure. Yeah. I see that right there. But when you're, you know, working through relationships and you're working through issues that are happening at the station level, maybe even above you, you're working on understanding the people that you're leading, that you're trying to serve. That's something that's constant, and it's something that is extremely like emotionally challenging, which is hard because, you know, you're taking on all this extra, you know, it's like paying out emotional currency, you know, so to speak. So you're taking on a lot more that way. And it seems like a lot of times, like even good leaders say you might not do that much, but you're doing a lot. Oh, hopefully you are, you know, and you're working to make those relationships, and you're working to make those people better, and you're working to better yourself all at the same time. And now in the climate that we work in, you know, where we're very concerned, and we should be, with mental health, you know, along with the, you know, very high levels of service output that we're doing. You know, there's a lot to that, and all leadership isn't just some fun, you know, command presence thing on a fire ground. A lot of it could be making decisions that aren't that exciting, and you know, getting buy-in and respect consistent, you know, across the board, whether it's a fun thing or a not fun thing. Like, hey, let's go for ice cream, you know, after this fire. Yeah, I'm a hero. Everyone loves me. But then also too, when we get back, we're gonna, you know, pull the hose back off the truck and clean it, you know, type stuff. So where it's okay, yeah, you know, so really all that is that relationship building. And you know, if you start, so to try to like bring this back around to your question, you know, because as you're moving through, right, you're a young firefighter, and you're going through all these processes. If you start with that mentality, right, to where relationships matter, when you get into the position where you're wearing the white shirt and you're sitting in the right seat, and then all of a sudden relationships matter, you're going to be at a disadvantage big time. But if you start your career where relationships matter, right, where you check your ego at the door and you care about people from the start, you're going to create rapport where, yeah, you say you have an expedited, you know, career path where, you know, you're a captain within 7 years like me. When you get there, you're going to have some respect because of the rapport that you've made, meaning that people know that you actually do care about them. even if they may not think like you're the best guy I've ever seen, or I could be better than you because I've been here longer than you, whatever it is, you still have a respect that's built there because you care about that person and you've shown it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that full circle thing is like, whatever your career path is, make sure that you understand that the relationships matter. This is a 30-year career, and that people understand that you care about them no matter what.
Yeah. So if this is going to be I have this question in my brain, but man, if I can bring it to fruition, we'll find out. So imagine there's all these traits that a great fire officer would have, right? And imagine like you're building this person, right? It's Madden, 06 to go back to when I played Madden. And you're building these sliders, right? Where are you allocating your proverbial 100 points? Are you giving them to fireground tactics? Are you giving them to relationship management? Are you giving them to administrative proficiency? What matters in order to make a successful fire officer? Well, where do I want to allocate these skill sets?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question.
You should write a book about it.
Yeah. It's always an ever-changing landscape, right? So, and it's about not wasting your time either early on. So like when you're a young firefighter and you're coming up and you're thinking in your head, hey, one day I want to be an officer, you better start learning then. And you better start getting freaking good at whatever the hell you're doing, And so if you're like at the firefighter level, you better be good at something. And if you're not, you better work on it. And you kind of want to be in a position where someone would want to ask you if they don't know. So if you're like, you're a firefighter at special ops and someone could call you and be like, hey, I was setting up this like 3-to-1Z, and then what we were thinking if it was, maybe a low angle, whatever, they're going to call you about it. Or if you're a driver, right now you're a driver and someone's going to call you back, hey, we did this weird thing with the pump where it started to come out of pump gear and we had to use the auxiliary emergency. Why would you think that would happen? Maybe did I lose air pressure or something? So then now people are coming to you because they know that you're kicking ass at that level. Mm-hmm. So when you get to and along the way, be nice to people, right? Expend the energy, right? So you're keeping those relationships and you're making a soft landing everywhere, no matter what. There could be some friction between us. We're not best buds, on the fire service, but I'm still nice to you, mm-hmm. Because there's a 30-year career here. You know what I mean? That kind of keeping those relationships, not burning any bridges, so to speak. Then when you get into the officer phase, hopefully, your strategy and tactics and things like that, you already have a hell of a foundation that you're building off of. You're not learning those things now, right? So then you can really focus on the relationships. You can focus on what I call the relationship, more of span of control, where instead of it's like delegation capacity, now it's more about knowing who the heck you have, right? So span of control is low because I actually have to know you. Mm-hmm. And that's difficult to do. So then you can focus on that more. And along the way, those things changes. They change, right? Our target hazard, so to speak, changes. So what scares us changes. And the point is when those things come up, and they always will as you're going in through your career, is to not be so afraid that you stop, but to identify what that is and then make a plan to overcome it. And then what that does is it gives you confidence and it gives you self-esteem, because then you have a track record of being able to overcome these things. And at the same time, you're building those relationships. At the same time, you're building those skill sets. And it doesn't have to be any massive jump. I'm eating this elephant, I bite at a time type of deal. And then when you get into that fire officer role, what you've created was a rapport of people that say, you know what, the guy actually knew what the heck he was doing. At least well enough, people actually asked him, his opinion on certain things, and he was really nice to me,
Yeah.
there's your foot in the door right there. And then all you can do is move from there, where, you can continue that relationship, and you continue it by, putting those people above you. And that's a hard thing, because you have to have a solid base to do that. To put people above you, you have to have the self-esteem and confidence to be able to do that, because if you don't, then any little thing is going to shake you, and you're not going to be able to do it. So, I mean, it's kind of a big question. Maybe that was a big enough answer. I don't know. I'm trying to hit the points.
No, you're good. So your book title, The Modern Fire Officer, right? So that the modern fire officer, that title implies that there is a legacy fire officer. There is something that we're transitioning away from. So talk to me about those terms. What is the legacy fire officer, and then what defines the modern fire officer?
Right. So I say modern because of the change in service that we provide, even over the past, let's say the past 20 years, past 30 years, what we're required to do street level, and even in like small townships that may even be volunteer, they're expecting service that mimics like FDNY. You know what I mean? It's crazy, some of the stuff that we're required to do or expected to do. So what I mean is, 30 years ago, we weren't expected to do half of this stuff, maybe not even 80% of it. If you just add in most of the medical stuff that we do, you could make that claim, much less anything else. So, our service level is much higher. It's much higher in a more litigious world that has access to cameras 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Say the least.
Yeah. So right there, that's what I mean by modern, is that we're responsible for more in the face of more. Now, because of that.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, because of that change back then, most firefighters were just that. They were firefighters. So you could get away with certain leadership techniques, and that was good enough at the time, where you could wear your captain's hat, your command presence hat, like you would on a fire scene. You could wear that right back to the firehouse, and that's fine. But now you can't. You have to wear many more hats than that, especially now with, trying to beat stigma for mental health issues and different things, because we're responsible for so much more. We need more support to be able to accomplish those goals. So that's kind of where that modern fire officer is that it is different. It has changed, and we were going to have to up our game to keep up with it. Yeah.
So when you think about the other hats, what are some of the other hats that you see, and which ones do you see the average fire officer now wearing well, and which ones do you see them struggling in?
Yeah, so it just depends, because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses and what they're good at relationships, and that's really what you are is in a leading position. Is you have to start to be an expert at relationships, of all kinds, and some are easy and some are hard. Not every firefighter is created equal. Every single one has their own baggage and history and strengths and weaknesses, and what they need and what they don't need, and how they are motivated and how they're demotivated. And you need to know all that, and how to possess the right tool in the toolbox at the right time to do it. So yeah, that sometimes you have to wear that command hat. Sometimes you have to be a friend. Sometimes you have to be a peer supporter. Sometimes you have to, tell them something they're not going to want to hear, and that's a whole nother hat. The hard part is knowing when you have to be what part of that type of leadership, what hat you're actually wearing, and when to wear it, and then how to switch it quickly, because you might be having a pretty serious conversation with someone, on your team and your crew and your firehouse, and then suddenly you're in a whole nother world, having a whole nother conversation that has nothing to do with that, and now you're going to have to break some news to someone that, hey, your performance is not good. We're going to need to work on that, and this is where it's not good, and this is how we're going to make it better. You might go from that to someone that just came back from a call that said, this call just like really bothered me. I'm not sure if I'm right to finish the shift. That you're going in between some of this stuff, that's not easy at all. And that's the invisible part to leadership in the modern world that we're doing. But if you want service that we're being asked to provide, that's the kind of leadership that is going to be necessary to do that, to keep people healthy enough and coached up enough to give that type of service. And that's kind of what my new book is about. But it also puts that pressure on our administrative services and government services to say, we can't be alone in holding this all up by ourselves. Like, we need support. If you're going to up the amount of service, then you have to up the amount of support to those providing the service. Otherwise, it's a house of cards.
Yeah. So when you look over the landscape of the American fire service, the global fire service, depending on how plugged in you are, where do you see officers failing their crews?
That's tough. I think a lot of it is going to come from not so much that they're failing their crews, but that they were failed to be mentored. There needs to be more specific and direct training for our officers in every department, and there has to be clear expectations for them. There has to be safety measures for them too, to where you have to get behind them. There's hard decisions that are made every day. And if there's not some safety there to where it's like, not only am I going to teach you to be a good officer, but I'm going to empower you to do it. And then I'm going to get behind you when you make a decision. If we can't do that, then the failure is our own. And that's a legacy issue. And I don't necessarily think it's specifically on, at least on leadership that's coming up. It's on leadership now. And so those of you that are in those positions now, if you're not actively mentoring someone, then you have a serious problem. You need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I not mentoring someone right now? If you don't have a mentorship program, some type of coaching program, that's a problem, because they're going to make it up on their own. And then what? Then we're going to get upset at them because they didn't do it how we liked it, and then not protect them, when liability comes knocking. That's not how we create culture and safety, and that's how we get burnout and the mental health issues. So like, we're going to have to step up and create this next level of leadership, and we're going to have to do it intentionally. We're going to have to do it through programs that we agree on, that this is what service should look like, and this is the expectation. And by the way, if you do it, we're going to be behind you 100%. And then what you get, instead of mediocre, self-preservation, fear garbage, culture, is culture that's like, I'm going to go above and beyond because I know that I've been empowered to do that and they got my back. That doesn't mean that you're going to, put up with nonsense. That just means that you're going to empower in the right way. And then you can actually hold someone accountable, when you actually teach them to do something. If you didn't teach them to do nothing and then you hold them accountable, then you're a jackass. That's just my opinion on that. You can't complain about that.
Yeah. Without an expectation, how do you hold anyone accountable to anything? Right. So one of the foundational questions of this podcast that I ask anytime I get someone in a leadership position is about morale, because I think it's a plague in the fire service. It's a thing that theoretically we should have great morale because we do have the best job on earth. But why does it seem like if you scan the firehouse tables across the country, you're going to have a lot of people whining and complaining about stuff? Where is morale foundationally built? Is it built at the firehouse table? Is it built in administration and it trickles down? Where is it built, and where do we repair it?
Yeah, so I think that culture is built by the highest officer of your fire station. So if that's a captain or a lieutenant, whoever that is, at that level, I think that's who builds morale and builds culture. But it is up to the admin, those that support them, to give them the tools necessary to do that, to build them up to do it, not to destroy them and take them down. So they have to do that by listening to those officers, by not just empowering them to do what's right, to give them the right expectations, but then to listen to the feedback that they're getting back, right? In my opinion, those officers are the ones where the rubber meets the road, right? So the fire service to me is like an hourglass, like the little, time hourglass where it comes, to the point in the middle, right? So that's where all the information is coming up and down, but that's where the friction point is, right? But so whatever's coming down, that goes through them and goes to the firefighters on the street and deliver the service and back up the other way. Right. So that pinch point really is where culture is made, in my opinion. That's where morale can happen. But admin has to work with those officers to make it good and really listen to them and work with them and find compromises that make sense. Because if you're looking at your middle management as compliance officers, you've already lost, because all that's going to do is you're going to just help those officers to lose respect or have respect lost for them if all they're doing is trying to, try to figure out what the heck you mean by whatever memo you're putting out or whatever discipline that's coming that is kind of disconnected and meaningless. So it really behooves both the station level officers and administrators to really work together and listen to those station officers on what is necessary on the street to do better service. And not everyone's going to have a great idea, right? And that's just the normal thing, right? You're going to have officers on the street that's going to give you some stupid idea, and you're going to have the same thing in administrative services where they're going to have an idea and be like, dude, that idea is like 15 years old because you haven't been on the street in 15 years. So there has to be respect there built, and once you can do that, and that comes from a mentorship program, full circle on that. But when you can do that, when the officers that are on the street helping to provide the service, then they can come back and say, hey, X, Y, and Z works, and also these things don't work that good. Let's work together to figure this thing out. And when admin is willing to do that, to really listen and actually make some changes where necessary, or at least communicate when that can't be done, then all of a sudden you're going to see that culture and morale really build, because there's that mutual respect there. And firefighters see it. They're not stupid. They can see when an opinion hits or doesn't hit, or at least it's communicated that it does or it doesn't. And a lot of times what kills morale is just crap processes, projects, programs, whatever. They're just old and don't work anymore, but we still do them. And half the time we don't even know why we're doing them. That's like the busy work conundrum where, we're checking all these boxes for what? What are we checking the boxes for? Does admin even know? If they do, and it's for a good reason, good, communicate it. Tell us why. If we just added this whole checkbox program, so that they could go ahead and get better pay for us, get another station put into service, do whatever. Heck yeah, I'll check boxes all day. Let me know what the hell I'm doing, that for. Yeah. But if it's not, if it's like, oh, we don't even remember why we're doing this crap, then get rid of it. Yeah. And that's not going to happen unless there's a healthy communication between those fire officers on the street level and the officers that are in the offices. And those both have to come together. But again, I think that morale, it happens at the station level, but admin has to give them the tools to succeed. So are you helping or are you harming that to take place? Yeah.
So now let's take you to a scenario and walk me through it, right? So you have your crew, and one day your guy comes in and he says, admin this and admin that and F them and blah, 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 blah. How do you, as the tone setter in the station, reel that in, calm that down, validate that in some way probably is probably helpful, but I'll leave it to you. But how do you, because we're going to have some flare-ups, right? We have some type A personalities in the Firehouse. People are inevitably going to become upset at some point. How do you make sure that that momentary displeasure doesn't become cancerous to the morale and culture?
Right. So this is what I would call a transparency issue. So usually when that happens is because someone doesn't have enough information, and hopefully you as an officer do. And that's where mentorship programs come, because part of mentorship programs should be to where I should know what the hell is happening above me, right? So I should spend a day in the life as if I'm a captain, as a battalion chief, as an administrator, as maybe even fire life safety, ride with them or whatever it may be. I should know what the hell is happening in dispatch. I should know all of that stuff. And that's part of a good mentorship program is the transparency part, to where someone comes with a gripe, I already have a loaded answer. Hey, oh man, this thing, can you believe, they did X, Y, Z? Oh yeah, well, I can believe it because this is exactly why it happens. Because if we don't do it this way, then it actually hurts this person over in fire life safety, or it actually hurts the dispatcher trying to do the information. So that's why we're doing it. So think of it that way. When you do it, you're actually doing them a service. Just like you're running a call for somebody you don't know. These people you do know, they're the ones giving you the information you need, to survive the job. Oh, okay. Well, now my perspective has been realigned, and now I get why the heck something's happening. So a lot of that stuff, those issues, is a transparency issue. But if you're not sure, as a leader, you can't breed negativity, even if you want to be negative. And I mean, it happens all the time. Like gripes get out, and that's fine. But man, if you're in a leadership role, that the hardest, the one of the things that will just kill anything you're trying to accomplish is negativity. It's like a cancer. So if you can just bite your tongue, it might be something you hate. I mean, you absolutely hate it, and it sucks, and it sucks, and it's transparent that it sucks.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff like that where I know and I've seen it, and I'm mad about it, and I still have to bite my tongue, because why poison the well? That's not going to do anything for right here, right now, in my station. All it's going to do is make stuff suck. So I'll internalize that. That's part of being a leader, is being an umbrella. As the crap rains down, it rains down on you, and not them. And
how do you then, that philosophy holds water, and it sounds great, and I love it. But how do you then relate that to your crew so that your crew still believes that you're not I guess the phrase that comes to mind, even though it's probably not accurate, is an admin shill, right? That would be the kind of thing would be thrown around at my department. Anytime you defend the dynamic above you, then all of a sudden you're on the take. It's not that's not. So how do you say, yep, and maybe not in these words, but how do you say, yeah, I understand this is not ideal, but also this is the way it is, and I'm not going to bitch about it. Right. I don't know.
So I look at that as perspective realignment. So there's two ways, right? Number one, you can turn it into an action, right? So it's listen, I hate this thing too, and it freaking sucks, and I've been pissed about it for years. Help me figure out a better way, and maybe we could pitch it and make it better. So at least now I'm getting some type of buy-in. That's not just let's blow this thing up, just watch it burn, and then maybe we'll learn something too, or maybe we can change it. Change doesn't come quick, usually, but maybe we can. So that's one way to realign perspective, right? Is just to common enemy. How do we turn this thing around, make it a positive, make it a win? The other side of that is just to straight up realign your perspective to be this thing's really chapping my ass. Okay. But what are we literally doing right now? We're sitting around a table together eating a steak, or something. So you have to kind of realign that way too, to where hey, things are pretty good in some other ways. Let's maybe take the focus off that for a second. Yes, it does suck. Not everything in life is going to be the best thing we've ever had. That's just reality. You know what I mean? But hey, you know what is good? That thing right there. That's pretty damn good. What do you think about that? What do you think about that thing right there? That's pretty good. Yeah.
That your line there brings me back to this, and I think you might have an interesting perspective on this based on your time. So one of the things I see more and more with newer and younger firefighters, right? Like these guys come into the fire academy at 19, at 20, and have never had a job that's actually a bad job, right? They went from like living with their parents to now like the blue collar lottery, as they call it in the fire service, right? How do you go about offering perspective in a moment like that where someone's upset and maybe they don't have, you know, your trips to South America to give them perspective on how hard life can actually be? They haven't shoveled dirt as a landscaper or whatever the thing might be. And now they're upset because this job sucks. But in all actuality, they're just wrong. They just don't have perspective. How do you lend that to them?
You could, a lot of times I'll bring that back to like certain calls, because usually like they've run enough calls to know that like life sucks for a lot of people. And I can tell when things like have bothered them, obviously, because I'm paying attention. And if they start to complain about something, you know, like that in life, I'd be like, hey, you remember that kid that has seizures that we run on all the time? You remember the look in their parents' face? That could be you. That's not you. You're in a position where you help them.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's so much that you can kind of turn that, and it's not meant to be like some trick, you know, or something like that. It's more meant to be like, hey, things are good. You know, they're better than you think. And that's like a whole nother beast, like generational differences, because a lot of times with generational difference, it has to do with speed. And what I mean is they're used to, like, you know, you order something, it comes tomorrow, you know, on Amazon type thing. We were like, when we were growing up, like you order something, and if it came that summer, you were like, you know, you like ordered shoes out of a skate magazine. You were hoping they came and they actually fit. And then if they didn't, boo-hoo for you, you know, you're warm anyway, kind of a thing. So like how you approach those things, you have to understand like how they approach it too. So, and that will mitigate a lot of those issues to where, you know, they might see something and say like, this is crazy, I can't believe it. And be like, yeah, it will take time. Trust the process. We'll get there. This is how things work. And then like continue to update you, because I know you need the update, right, on this thing. So it's like, yeah, this, you know, this issue within the fire service that's taking place, it's really like really hard. Okay. Yeah. You know, first off, I'll validate you. You can feel that way. That's completely fine. You know, and you should feel that way, whatever. But this is probably going to be the timeline, you know, and then I'll continue to update you on that timeline. Just wait another couple months. Here we go. This is a thing. Trust me, I've been here. You know what I mean? And that's part of mentorship. And it's also part of knowing, you know, generational difference. And that is very true with, like, you know, a lot of times like younger people like that will need affirmation sooner. So if they're doing something, be like, great job. You know, like a lot. Great job. Because they want to know, like, did I do it? Yeah, you did it. Good job. You know what I mean? But if you do that to like Gen X or, you know, a boomer or something like that, they're going to be like, dude, shut up. Like, you should tell them good job. They'd be like, beat it, clown, you know? Yeah. I know I did a good job. Get out of here. You know, so it's all that nuance, but that's really that like span of control too, where like, I know you, right? So if you're coming to me and you got some serious gripe, I'm going to have a pretty good clue of how serious this gripe is to you or not, or if you're just bitching, like, you know, sport bitching or whatever today. Yeah. And then, you know, and then how to attack that issue, because I know you, but also too, bring that thing back in perspective, because, you know, we do have a great job, you know, it's the best job. And if we don't focus on why it's the best, then it won't be. And, you know, and as leaders, we need to kind of really redirect a lot of that type of thought process. And mostly, and a lot of the reason why I do it is because I'm selfish in a lot of ways. And I'll say this is because I want to be happy when I come to work.
Yeah.
I don't want the negativity. I want it to be positive. I want to have a freaking good time when I come to work.
Yeah.
I want to eat good and run calls and kick butt and freaking like do fun stuff and know what I'm doing too. I don't want to be like, just totally shooting from the hip. I want to like have a clue of what's happening, and that way when we're knocked this job out of the park, then it's like, yeah, we killed it, and that's, you have to do that by killing negativity, realigning perspectives all the time, understanding the person that has that, whatever that gripe, and working with them in the way that they need, to kill that thing, and make it a positive instead of a negative.
So we've talked a lot about what the fire officer owes their crew and their department, but what does a fire officer owe the public?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say the biggest indicator of that, right, is when you have a family and you have an emergency and a fire department comes and runs a call on that family member. I don't know how many like fire officers have experienced that. Then you understand what a fire officer owes the community from a service standpoint, right? And what it means to do a good job. And once you go through that, it's easy to say and it's easy to think about, but once you go through that, then it becomes serious. And as a fire officer, your job is to make sure that your crew gives their best output on their worst day. I mean, as simple as that. Like, we are there to do our best, and if we can't do that, then we're gonna have some problems. And it's not just like a liability wise or however it looks at the department. We'll have problems here, And to me, one of the biggest ways that we can kill mental health issues and regret and all those things is to be trained well as a team to do a good job. Because even some of the worst calls that I've been on, like where like we did like all we could. I mean, we knocked out of the park, and it still sucked. It went south and it didn't work. I wish it did. It just didn't. But on the way back to the firehouse, we could say, you know what? Damn, dude, you guys killed it. And I wish if God forbid that was to happen to my family, that you guys would be the ones that would be there to do that, because I knew that they would have every chance, that you gave them every chance. And that's really what a fire officer is there to do, is to give everyone every chance when they call 911. And I don't care what it is that they call 911 for, that we're there. We're answering the call. So you should look at every one of those as an opportunity to knock it out of the park, no matter what it is. I get it. Like, it's like 3 a.m. You've already done you've been running all day. You're soaking wet because it's pouring rain or whatever it is, and you're pissed, and there's some dumb call, whatever.
Yeah.
Knock it out of the park, dude. Because you know what? It matters here, right here. And when you start not letting it matter, that's when you'll burn out. And that's when your crew burns out. And that's when something bad happens. And the biggest thing I think that we can do, is really knock it out of the park for the citizens in our communities, and then do this. Little pat on the back right after that, because, and not in like I'm the best thing that ever walked the earth, because we're not, but just to say, you know what, we just kicked ass. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? Because I always, maybe this is just from, being in the industry, but I find it interesting. Like I'll be watching, like, you watch like the Super Bowl or whatever, and there's some like awesome catch, like one hand catch, boom, in the end zone. And it's like, oh my God, yes, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Pay this guy millions. And it's like, we pulled a child out of a pool and resuscitated them.
Yeah.
How about a round of applause? For the people that did that trained to do that, saved someone's life, made a huge difference. It's not just catching some dumb ball. You know what I mean? And think about all the support that player got. Like the ice baths and the massages and the whatever, just so they could catch a ball in the end zone. Boop. Who cares? Think about like what we're doing on the street, man. And like we get to do that we need the support for it. And then we also need to pat ourselves on the back for it, just like we root for, whatever play.
Yeah, I think that that's a cultural problem in the fire service, is that for so long we've been these self-sacrificial servants, which is like wonderful. And I love that culture in the fire service, that people come in because they want to serve their communities and stuff. But then there's some sort of disconnect that says like, well, if you're proud of the job you did, then there's some sort of like pride issue. You're like, no, man, you wouldn't be like an arrogant a-hole if you were like a great carpenter and you built a great deck and you were proud of the deck you made, right? You would just like, right. Oh, he's a great carpenter. He's great, right? Like, but for some reason, there's a stigma in the fire service that if you're good at your job and you acknowledge it, then like you're all of a sudden this arrogant, like whack job, right? And and I think it holds us back.
Yeah, what's funny too is like, so you'll get like a house fire or something, and dude, you'll be like high-fiving, yeah, just freaking put this fire out. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the chiefs are like, dude, not in front of the fire, the family's over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of thing, or whatever. But like, you could run some insane medical, and there's no high fives.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No one's taking a picture by the rescue or the ambulance, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? No one's like high five. After that, I'm like, bro, like we just cut some person out of a car, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And got them to a trauma center within 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And they're probably going to live. High fives around anyone, like, hey, pat yourself on the back, dude. This is what it's all about, man. You made a difference in the community. That person now has, who knows what they're going to go on to do, or the kids they'll go on to have, or whatever the hell the downstream butterfly effect is of this moment that you've trained to do, and you did.
Yeah, and I think that culture of failing to acknowledge the good work takes away from people's desire to take pride in the job and in the work and in the training and the preparation and all the things that get you to have that moment, right? When you get to have that moment of victory, wow, look what we did, right? All of a sudden, all the work that you did to bring you to that moment has weight and matters in a different way, right? But I don't know how that changes, right? And it is a fine line, because you also don't want to be this arrogant, like I'm the greatest, we're the greatest. But I don't know, some level of pride in the work that we do, and naming it specifically. I think people are proud to be a firefighter, right? Generally, but I don't think that we're generally proud of the specific incidents very often. At least not publicly. Right. But
we should be, and it's 80-90% of what we're doing anymore, at least in South Florida is. Yeah. And I think the weight needs to be there on it, and it needs to be there on a community level, because I think, also too, like, the community thinks we're, laying around in recliners until there's a fire, and they haven't, and they're like, I don't remember there being a fire lately. So they've just been plastered to, to recliners, holding them down from floating away, for the past few months.
So you mentioned there when you talked about kids. So I have this one, right? Like your kids are, we don't get to it, but your kids are half the age of the time you've spent in the fire service. How did having children affect your ability to be a firefighter and a fire officer?
It taught me lots of lessons. That's for sure. You want to talk about perspective? I mean, you get perspective in life anyway. It's like at the moment where you call your parents and you're like, all right, you were right. You win, all the crap you did. I get it now, So, you get that, life experience perspective, but you also get just perspective on yourself. Like if you're really paying attention, because you're like, I thought I was a patient person, but it turns out like I have an anger issue, you know what I mean? Or whatever it may be. And if you, obviously you have, serious reasons then to get better as a person, because you want to be a better parent. And those qualities are, they directly transfer for leadership, and that's not meant to say that you're going to treat anyone like children. Not at all. It's those qualities where it's like, I want you to succeed. I'm going to work hard for you to succeed. I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to do all these things that are hard so that you're better, not me. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's where if you really pay attention to those qualities and you can employ those in a leadership role, you're going to have some followers. You know, people are going to be like, dude, this person cares about me in a way that most people don't. So not only am I going to want to be around that person, I'm probably going to want to listen to them. You know, I'm looking to get mentored. And a lot of times too, like even off duty, they'll call for, you know, advice on something just because they know that you care about them. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's how you know when you really are becoming a leader, is when it extends past the Firehouse, where you're going to call up dude and be like, hey dude, this thing's happening to me. Like, what do you think? And that's when you know you've created like a serious rapport there. But that's a two-way street, that relationship, because it's now I'm afraid to lose that. You know, you might, like, I want you to be afraid to lose that relationship. And I'm also afraid to lose that relationship. So what does that do? I'm going to work to keep it. And I hope you do the same. Mm-hmm. And then now you have a very healthy Firehouse, because if you can get everyone on board with that, then there's a healthy fear there, a fear of hurting a relationship, not a fear of like failure or whatever, you know, like crap fear. I'm talking about like a fear, you know, of hurting someone you care about. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's something that kids taught me.
Yeah. So what's the next step? When do we get Chief Vermeulen?
I think that ship sailed, man.
No chiefdom, huh?
No. I was starting it, and I realized that like the only reason I was doing it was so that it was chief in front of my name, and and I was just like, that's just not. I don't know. I wasn't feeling it, and I really like the captain's position, because I feel like. And not for it to be like a cop out or anything, because chief's positions are extremely important. But like, I like being a firefighter, like, and that's kind of like the last step to where once I move away from that, then I'm not doing that anymore. And that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I want to run the calls. I want to make a difference. I want to cook meals and laugh and be around the fire station table. And I want to do those things. And when I started, the battalion chief role, a lot of that was going to go away. And I was like, I'm not sure I'm okay with that. And so I had to tone it back.
How many more years do you have?
I go into the drop next year, and then up to 7 after that. So we'll see. But yeah, and then the sky's the limit. You know, there's so many things to do. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the fire service, is that you know, you can have a career if you start young, and you can retire with a you know, a pension benefit that you've earned and deserve, but you could also, you know, spend time doing something and have hopefully some youth left to, you know, spend it on your kids, or spend it, you know, doing something that you love, or taking care of something. I don't know, whatever it may be. And I'd like to take full advantage of that. So for me, like, the sky's the limit. I want to, you know, take my kids traveling like I did. By the time I retire, they're going to be somewhere around 18. And then, you know, I'm going to take them to Ecuador and make them live in a house with no windows. You know?
There you go. The full circle. The circle continues.
Full circle, yeah.
So, you know, I got to let you go here at some point. I can't keep you forever. But you, at some point here, you decide to write a book and then write another book, right? We got to talk about that a little bit before I let you go. Obviously, a lot of the principles we've talked about throughout this thing, I'm sure are going to be found in there. But talk to me about the decision to write a book. And then there they are. There you go. Center them. There we go. Close.
Shameless book plug.
Yeah, no, it's great. So you're like, I have these thoughts. Let's put it down on paper, right? What was that decision like?
Yeah, so I don't have any social media. I didn't even have LinkedIn until like 2 years ago, which has been good, because then I can, you know, meet guys like you and kind of like get a pulse on whether anyone even cares about the book or not. But you know, when you write something like that, when you challenge some of the norms and, put that thing out there. It's, there's definitely some anxiety surrounding it. So there's definitely, that aspect to it. But, I always thought that, if I'm going to write a book, then I got to be like, 100 years old, like a like a Confucius.
Yeah, old wide sage on top of a mountain.
I have learned these things, and now I can impart them to you before I expire.
Yeah.
But a few friends that helped me to say, like, if it can help some people now, do it. And I thought it could, and I felt like it helped a few people in the department, like that style of leadership. And not to say that that style is right for everybody, but I hope there's some, nuggets in there that help. But, I just saw that there was a serious soft skill gap, in our fire service, and still is. And I think it's unfortunately kind of only getting bigger a bit. And I wanted to try to, kind of fill that gap a bit was something that might help. And it's been getting a lot of really good feedback for the past, my first book, Modern Fire Officer. It has done very well. Communicate, Motivate, and Lead is the subtitle. It's done very well, and I've gotten a lot of really good feedback, and I've learned a lot since, and decided to put that into another book, which is under the same title, Modern Fire Officer, but Building Legacy That Endures, and it kind of builds upon that. So it's like the first book is more basic introduction to leadership, like making yourself better, lead yourself, or you can't lead anyone, and then just like basic ideas and understanding of what that leadership is going to entail, things that you might not read in a leadership book. Like, yeah, you're going to be scared. You're going to have fear of a lot of different things, that you can overcome it, and you can do it in these ways. You're going to have to deal with mental health issues. You're going to have to deal with certain things, and don't think that you're in a vacuum, that you're alone. This is a normal thing. And then the second book builds upon that on more higher level thinking of dealing with issues within the firehouse, being able to even work on yourself more by working on your own self esteem, your confidence, getting more serious about your physical, mental, even spiritual health, whatever it takes to get to a place where you are, in a position to continue to lead yourself, much less others. Looking at the fire department from more of a 10,000-foot view of the systems that it, uses to whether that helps or harms the firefighters that are living within it, what your leadership costs, so to speak. And it does have a cost. You could, be building up, or you could be tearing down. So, coming to terms with that. Yeah. So I hope people enjoy it. They read it, they use whatever they want to use from it and get better. There's plenty of good leadership books out there, and hopefully, people will count those as some of them and get what they can from them. But like, I didn't, suddenly find leadership and I have the market cornered on it. It's just, my experience with the fire service and what works, and what I found to work and what doesn't. So, I hope people really and they're short, like easy reads. That's kind of like the whole purpose of it right there. It's not like massive, so
Yeah.
you can pick it up. It's not going to be scary. You can read it in in an afternoon if you're a good reader, and hopefully glean something from it.
So tell the people where they can find you, where they can find the book.
Yeah, so the book is anywhere books are sold. Amazon is really the easiest. Pretty much everyone has access to that. So both books have print and ebook, and then my first one has Audible already. The second one will have Audible like probably within the next week. Okay. So if you only do that, you can wait, a week, and then you'll have the Audible. And then I have the website, which is on the book, but it's modernfireofficer.com. So modernfireofficer.com. And then you could reach out to me there. You could reach out to me on LinkedIn, like you did.
Yeah.
And and
perfect, man. We'll put all those links in the show notes for this. Jared, thanks for joining me, man. It's been a pleasure. We'll have to run it back again. I felt like I could have talked to you for another 3 hours, so maybe we'll do another one here.
Yeah, hell yeah, rock on.
Awesome, dude. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.